Oh, I think we're already live. Welcome everybody to the Genesis Mindset. So today is XUSD team chat to basically just see how everyone is doing and investigate how the community has been interacting with XUSD lately. And then we'll also be covering BetterBank updates and any progress that they've been having, and also potentially just discussing some of the difficulties they're having with audits and just a general chat and a catch up. So we got Nikki with us at the moment. So Nikki, the
Hello.
BetterBank. What's going on, Nikki?
Hello. Yeah, well, most people here know me, of course, as being the community manager for XUSD, which I am. But at the same time, of course, I'm the founder at BetterBank and trying to make that launch happen smoothly. So that's also what I'm doing. And very happy to be here, man. It's always good to talk about everything going on. And I really hope Anders will join us soon because he's a little bit tardy at the moment.
Yes. So we also did plan to have Anders joining us as well. So he should be joining us shortly. He might be a little
Yeah.
bit delayed. So we had a few different time changes. So in any case, yeah, Nikki, how's everything going with XUSD? What's your perspective on it these days?
Well, I think in the longer sense, like what's actually happening, if you zoom out, then everything's going fine. I mean, we've got plans for the future. There's all kinds of, there's things ongoing in the larger sense. But if you zoom in, which people are often want to do, um, then things are basically flat on their ass at the moment.
Mm,
Because because obviously there are personal issues with the child of Caddy, and therefore Caddy and John are very involved with that. And I really hope that everything is going to be okay, because there are serious things ongoing. But because that takes most of their time. I mean, the primary drivers behind XUSD are basically out of it for a week or two now. So it's that is, well, on the short term it's not really good, but on the long term I don't really think it matters.
mm.
That's my take on it.
Of course, yeah, of course. Well said. Yeah. And how's everything been going from the perspective of the community? What's the general community vibe that you're getting from the chats? Obviously, you're the community manager, so how have you been assessing everything and feeling everything?
Well, there's a couple of people who had some issues with the way that the trading rewards were working at the moment, especially since they don't really seem to be profitable at the moment. And then that was a thing that was brought up, and then a whole discussion happened about whether that was whether everything was still going right but simply not profitable, or whether there was actually a bug or not. So that's a discussion that happened, and that was not everyone was very happy with the answers that were given. So there's some discontent over there, and normally surfacing would step in, right? He would just simply go like, oh, okay, yeah, but I'm going to fix that because that is still a problem. And obviously that wasn't happening right now. So you see that some things that are smaller problems become a little bit bigger if the bosses are not around. But
Mm,
on the other hand, I also see a lot of people who simply have, well, not just compassion and well wishes, but also understanding. They just get like, okay, yeah, this is a thing that can happen, and maybe we'll learn from this, like have some more contingency plans. But then again, if you've got a small team, and almost every DeFi project has, then yeah, it's just the data needed tweaking. Yeah, triple alliance, I know. But if you've got a small team, then obviously there's some what's that called again? Fragility in the team, because that's what it's called. If a position is fragile, it means that there's no real replacement if they're out of it for a while, and that's what we're seeing. I don't necessarily think that's bad, because if for whatever reason surfacing would be out of it for longer, then obviously we would find someone else to help out. But it's simply a pause, and I think that's fine.
Yeah, and surfacing, like you said, is exceptional in getting things done at a very fast rate. So he
Yeah.
almost spends like a lot of time dedicated to the community, which is really good. And he's very responsive. He's a very responsive dev. And when there's issues, you
Yes.
can almost DM him with the issues. So I'm sure he actually
He,
gets overwhelmed
he's got
with.
that strength of hyper focus,
Yeah.
I know how to do that too, but surfacing is master at it. He's just like, he sees a problem and then he just zones in, and then
Mm,
at the end of that zone, at the end of that tunnel, something comes out, and it might not even be the idea that he's sought to solve in the first place, but that also happened, right? So he solved the issue and then found another few things and then solved that as well. And oh yeah, I also launched a new token. That is the kind of dev that he is. It's like something comes out and it's always brilliant, but yeah, it's
yeah.
not always what you expect. So
He's a very
I think
talented dev.
that's wonderful, because that's almost an artistical brilliance to something like coding. I love that. I can definitely appreciate that. At the same time, it can come across as a little bit chaotic. Well, that's just the way that it is.
Mm. Yeah, boy, we've got some early birds here. We got Grandpa Pulse and 4 out of 5. You guys are up nice and bright and early, so welcome guys, and any girls who might be joining. So welcome everyone in the chat. So yeah, Nikki. So basically, this general sentiment around XUSD is things have kind of really slowed down. Obviously, with the absence of surfacing in Caddy,
Yeah.
and so really the community is expressing understanding, but there's still some frustration from probably some people as well.
Yeah, but there's also still stuff happening. I mean, Constantine, who's also like a very solid dev and who's also working on XUSD. He's working on making everything more efficient. So the problems with the trading rewards, he may come with solutions to that, and make sure that, for example, multiple transactions can be done in one, in whatever way he's going to do that. These are things that came up, and when I brought it up, he said, well, I'm kind of already working on it, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. So I also don't want to get ahead of him. Let's just see what he comes up with, right?
Mm.
But I think it's just, the work is just ongoing and everything is basically fine. But yeah, uh, short term is a little bit of a pause.
Sure. Yeah, and I suppose just looking at price as well, we just have a quick peek at the price. So things definitely were looking exceptional around the middle of April. Now things have definitely pulled back where people took a lot of their profits, and I believe this was all when the whole PDI fiasco happened. So there was probably a
Yes.
whole bunch of ratios that got thrown out, which made this look probably better than it was. And even if you look at this ratio, I know that there was probably a lot of swapping of XUSD into DAI. I can definitely say that I certainly did here with the expectation that it was going to come back down to 1-to-1, and then I can multiply my XUSD bags by quite a lot with this particular ratio. So, yeah,
Hmm.
things are moving along. Just in terms of the liquidity as well. What have we got in the liquidity? So just over 500,000 in liquidity. So nice and healthy. It's heavily
Yeah.
bonded to Love, ATROPA, Treasury bill, and obviously now, I mean, these are some good bondings. These are some really good bondings. So PDI now is a lot lower because of the price of PDI.
Hmm.
But Treasury bill, I'm really interested by these two in
Yeah.
particular.
Because that one
Obviously,
is no longer mintable now, eh?
correct,
Like,
correct.
yeah.
So Maria has renounced that one, and the
Yeah.
whole Treasury system has been really taking off, and people have really been starting to use it with the minting and the burning. So people are starting to interact with that. So Treasury bill is nice and low, but the Atropa ecosystem is starting to look like it's heading back into bullish momentum. So obviously, when
Hmm.
Atropa goes into bullish momentum, all of the Atropa tokens or related tokens go into bullish momentum as well. So it's good that 2 out of 3 of the top are looking. There's some good
Yeah.
liquidity pool there. So
But I also think that at the chart that you just had, if you zoom in a little bit, I mean, there's this very tiny little green bar like before today, but I believe that was also a 20% move or something. Like these tiny green bars are still like huge moves.
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah, correct,
So stuff is
absolutely.
really happening. It's not like, I mean, yeah, if you look at it like that, that almost starts looking like upwards momentum again, and the forming
Absolutely.
of a cup there. But you never know. We'll see. TA is only TA. um,
Exactly. Certainly against PulseChain, it's looking. I mean, to me, that's looking really healthy against PulseChain. It's definitely forming
against
like
Pulse.
an upward,
Yeah,
channel, and whenever it has these,
these little
I'm not
bar.
really big on patterns and everything like this, but when they have these kind of, well, certainly when it's had these kind of triangles in the past, it's
Yeah.
popped out. So
And Pulse itself is also seems to be recovering. I mean, it's done pretty
yeah,
well in the last week or so. So,
yes,
and
at
I
the same
think that has a
time,
lot to do, of course, with Richard Hart winning, which I'm very happy about as well. Like in the largest sense of
yes,
things in the world. So, I think we're at the. I think that the worst is behind us.
I
But
think so too.
maybe that's also my point of view, because BetterBank is almost launching, and I'm like, yeah, everything is going to be great now. But I'm just very positive about the coming time.
Mm, yes, so good stuff, Nikki. So we also have Anders joining us. What's going on, Anders? How are you, sir?
It looks like a black screen to me still.
He looks like he's been rugged.
Anders, are you okay?
I've just got a frozen Anders face on my screen. So
Oh well, that's more than I have. Oh, there
okay,
he is.
there
Here we go.
Hello, hello.
But I
Anders,
think
what's going on?
I do like this, then I hear you better, because I calculated the time difference wrongly.
Oh
So that's why
Ah,
I'm not totally prepared.
are you in? Obviously,
I was
you're in
thinking it was late tonight for me.
we, we,
Ah.
we, we're seeing your ear, you know this.
Oh, no, he's disconnected himself.
Oh, he's
Okay.
gone.
Nikki,
And he's
do you
gone.
know the answer to this? Why is XUSD trademarked? I don't know the answer
I
to
don't
that.
know.
Yeah, why?
Do
Good
you?
question.
Do you know?
Um, I suppose it's a unique concept. Perhaps that's why, and they want to keep it. They want to keep it that way. How do you even know it's trademarked?
Yeah, if you look that up, is there a trademark registry somewhere, or is it simply like the little trademark sign behind? Because that can also be a joke, right? But I'm not sure. Like I don't know. I really don't know. I never asked this
Yeah,
question, or would I
that's
know? This is really a question for John.
yeah, definitely. It's the first I've heard of it. So unless it's in the doc somewhere, I wonder if Anders is actually he accidentally disconnected with his ear and he's sitting there talking and talking. Uh, I might just maybe just send him a quick message just in case.
Are you okay?
Yeah, just so he knows. Yeah. So all
But
right. Because I want to hear what his feel is on XUSD as well before kind of moving on to the next stages. But yeah, back to
sure.
PulseChain, man. Yeah. Things are most definitely looking a lot healthier in PulseChain in general, aren't they?
They are, and I think like this is really the start of something good. I mean, the fact that he actually won the case is such a good basis for all kinds of legal connections. I mean, there was this rumor about Kraken maybe listing Pulse. I don't know if that's going to happen, but if that's going to happen, like a huge exchange like Kraken that is trusted and everything, I mean, that would make it so much easier to get your funds there and back again. And that's just a start, right? There's also maybe something like Circle deploying on PulseChain, or have they already? Because there is a stable USDC on PulseChain now.
Yeah,
But I
it
don't
is.
know who did that. Is that done by hexagons or is that done by Circle itself?
So the stable USDC will just be bridged in from Ethereum.
All right, right. So it's not a real one then yet.
Correct.
And of course that's centralized. And
Correct.
we don't
Yeah.
necessarily like that, but having a stable token then again is always nice. One that's not necessarily bridged, right? One that is actually on chain. That kind of stuff is useful, even if it is centralized. I mean, um, and I would still want to have a decentralized stablecoin, but because who doesn't? But
Likewise.
that seems to be a hard thing to do.
Well, not to
Hey,
mention, there's some big issues as well with. So basically, Richard put out a tweet today about the stable coins and what was the act? I can't really remember what the exact act was. Just give me a second because I know I did a tweet of it. Uh, the Here we go. The Genius Act basically corrals stablecoins into the banking world. So no interest payouts, only licensed banks and buddies can issue them, and your favorite decentralized stablecoin might be outlawed. Too long didn't read is basically it's a stablecoin crackdown that protects incumbents and could handcuff DeFi innovation. So this is with USDC, USDT, and even DAI now. So
yeah,
yeah, this really introduces an interesting use case again for XUSD, and the fact that it's not technically a stable coin, it's a Vibratile asset. So
yeah,
it really makes
yeah.
things.
Well, these things are a little bit annoying, I would say. I mean, it's always done for investor protection or whatever kind of crap they bring up, but it is in the end annoying. Yeah, like it is in the end annoying. But I think that like if something is properly DeFi and doesn't get listed anywhere, and then you can use it decentralized without it needing to be listed anywhere. The only thing that it needs is sufficient liquidity on chain before you bring it to any exchange or whatever. And I also think that in the future, not even that far of a future, we might get to actually doing just simply doing transactions on DeFi between each other. I mean, it's not, we're not there yet, at least not in stores and stuff like that, but it's already easily happening. I mean, for example, the audit that BetterBank is buying, of course, we buy that with stable tokens. We're not even getting to an exchange for that. I mean, why would we? Why would we utilize the TradFi system for something that can be done more efficiently? And that, I mean, that I think will grow, especially in countries where there's a lot of people who don't even have a bank account. And obviously, they will just use on-chain things. And then any token that is outlawed by the US can simply be used on-chain because it's not a legal thing that they can attack. It's they can't attack. It's just code. I mean, that's the way I look at it. I think that the whole point of creating legal entities everywhere for all kinds of projects, I think, is a mistake. And I think that Richard Hart did that well by as far as I know, these tokens are not legal entities. I mean that there might be I don't really know his legal structure, but it seems to be just code.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it definitely makes the future of PulseChain much more significant, particularly with the fork stablecoins and particularly with XUSD. So yeah, it's this Genius Act is it's something that I have spoken about with Bud on this channel before. So we
Yeah.
will see how all of this unfolds.
It might also make the dollar less interesting eventually, which a lot of the proceedings currently seem to be doing that. The whole trade tariff thing makes the dollar a little bit less interesting. Now this thing with the stable coins make the dollar a little bit less interesting, but at the same time, there aren't really any contenders yet. I mean, what are we going to do? The euro? I mean, they want to have a CBDC in October. So that's not a real good contender. the yuan, well, that has recently inflated its M1 supply like crazy. Like there are no real contenders except maybe something like PaxG or a gold stable. But then, you know, is that a good idea to base everything off gold? Might be. But what I think that we're seeing right now is a complete upheaval of everything financial that has been. There's all kinds of things decoupling at this time in the market, and so I really wonder what comes out in the end, and I don't know yet. It's hard to see. It's hard to see into the future.
Yeah,
Adrian, how you
of
paid
course.
for that?
Of course.
Yeah, he said that, like Adrian says, the idea of having a trademark coin on the decentralized network is pretty contrarian. Yes, that it is, but I'm not sure if it is trademarked, and also I'm not sure why it would be. And this is just a question that none of us can answer. So maybe it's not for this further chat, and you should ask it whenever Katie and John are on again. They can answer it.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe this copyright XUSD, maybe that.
Where?
Down the bottom.
Right.
I mean,
There's a copyright signal there. Yeah. Well, you should have to ask John if that's an actual copyright registered anywhere.
yeah, exactly. Because I'm sure that there's a whole process behind that. So.
Because you can also just say it. I mean, for example, in BetterBank, we also talk about stuff like what's it called again? When you have created something, it's yours because of what's ownership? Mental ownership? No. You come again? No. Come on, help me here. when you've created something, it's yours. That's what I mean. Intellectual property. So we can talk about intellectual property without registering it anywhere, right? It's simply the fact that you were first, and therefore you can prove that it's yours. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you want to keep anyone else from using it, because I wonder if John actually wants to do that.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. So yeah, not too sure. But I guess
it is a legit question. That doesn't mean.
No, he's not asking that, Adrian. You're being a troll. It's in the description. It's a stupid question, actually. It's not a legit question. So yeah, don't ask dumb questions. I won't delete your dumb questions, but yeah, it's just a dumb question. So I can't be bothered with dumb questions tonight. I'm not feeling like I'm just tired, man. I'm worn out today, and like just having a troll. Pointlessly just be a troll. It's just like, oh, just go get a life. It's a Saturday night, bro. Go have some fun. Go have some drinks. For goodness sakes, go get laid.
Wonderful. The Australian suddenly came out. Like I saw this happening before my eyes.
Oh man, just go have a crafty, bro. Go have a crafty. For goodness sakes.
Wonderful. I've got like our main developer at BetterBank is Luca, and he's also Australian. And when he's often really polite, just like you. He's really polite, really to the point, and whatever. But when he gets annoyed, his inner Australian comes out, and there's this whole roll of things. It's like, what the actual hell? That's really, I love that. The funny thing is, like, when that happens with me, in my inner, when I get annoyed, I would probably switch to Dutch, which nobody can understand, right? So I would not do
it. That's actually not a bad idea. I could probably switch to Macedonian, but I can't remember much Macedonian. So
Macedonian, is that where you're from? Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
That's the motherland, man. That's the motherland. Or now, what is it? Northern Macedonia now. So
nice.
Yeah, bro. So tell me a little bit about BetterBank. How's everything going over in the BetterBank world?
Well, it's going really well, actually. I mean, aside from having secured initial liquidity to start with, and that is part of that is from Caddy and John, and this is known. But a part of that is from other people who, were asking to stay private. but that just means that we can just launch, and the same goes for we now have constructions which allow us to pay for a really good audit, even someone contacted me about, hey, I'm a big holder of the ink token. If whenever your team gets to it, would you maybe like to list ink, because then I can provide the initial liquidity for it. I'm like, okay, well, that is the kind of stuff that I'd gladly talk about, right? So because that makes it a lot easier for us to expand to multiple listings and multiple tokens, and especially the ink token is highly liquid, so that's great. Oh man. So that is great, and I love stuff like that. So that's going well. And about this audit, I think we've now posted it in our documents that we're currently almost closed the deal with Consensus Diligence, which is a very highly highly regarded audit company.
Audit, did you say?
Consensus Diligence. Have you heard of them?
What's that? No, what's that?
That's an auditing company that, for example, audited MetaMask and their big guys. And of course, I believe that there was a quote even, and that was not them, but there was a quote even that was 130K for just an audit. Like, we didn't take that one. Might have been Certic, I'm not sure, but it was like a really up there quote. But most of the quotes, like the lower end quotes, started at like 5K. But those were the companies where everyone would know, like, oh, those are the cheap ones, right? And then 5K is not even that. It's still a lot of money. But most of the quotes came in somewhere between 15K and 25K, a little bit above that. Up to 35K even. So there were so many, there's so much to consider when you're considering an audit. Like, okay, how secure are they? But also, like, what's their reputation, stuff like that. And then once we, for example, accepted with Consensus Diligence, then we started talking about, okay, but who can we legally bill, right? And they were like, what? But we aren't a legal instance because BetterBank is not a legal entity. Okay, so I've got my own company. Maybe you can bill that. Okay, yeah, let's do that, right? Stuff like that. It's really annoying to make everything happen and work with people still keeping to the old system partially. Right, because they want to bill you legally into it, stuff like that, instead of just working with whatever comes from DeFi. Because I know that, especially with the Dutch tax laws, I could just say, like, this is income from work coming from DeFi, and I could just report it. I don't even have to say where it's actually coming from. Just saying it's coming from DeFi, and if I pay all the taxes on my end, then it's fine. But not everyone is taking that approach. But the funny thing is also that if you you get quotes which are real big quotes, like 20K or whatever, and then you say, like, hey, to a couple of them, like, hey, we're currently considering another one of the quotes that we got, and then they suddenly start talking about a discount, and we're like, these are big discounts, like 15% discount. So on 20K, that's like 3K. Why didn't you lead with that? Because if you have a lower price, we might have considered you a little bit more. Stuff like that. It's a really weird world to look into to look into and to see it from a dev perspective. Once you're code audited and you kind of get into this gray area where everybody's haggling and everybody is trying to make things happen and trying to upsell you and whatever. Man, it's it's a lot.
Because I don't know what the competition is like, but if they can charge it and they can get away with charging it, then it's
that's basically what they're doing. Like
Yeah.
they're evaluating their reputation combined with their actual skill set, and combined with what they think it might be worth compared to the rest, and then they give a price and see if they can get away with it. And
It's a big cost, though.
yeah, is really big, and that is annoying as well, because you need an audit at the start of your protocol. You don't need it after half a year or after a year. You need it at the start, because that's when you need to know if everything's safe. So
You don't
it's
have
almost that.
necessarily the liquidity at that stage, right?
Yeah, it's really difficult getting that. I mean, I was really happy that I got the liquidity from some private investors and um, basically friends that I then put on equity for their help. So they're basically on team pay, even though they're not team, but it's like simply for providing enough for us. But that is enough to build it with, to hire some more developers, to hire good good design and stuff like that. And then you also need to think about audits, and you need to think about marketing. You need to think all about all that. And while you're doing that, you also have to think about, like, how am I managing my team? How am I communicating everything? Because it's quite a big team. We've got more than 15 people within the team, and most of those people have day jobs, because we're not profitable yet. We're not really paying out yet, so they can't really live of it. I mean, some people get paid because they have skills that we really need at that moment, but most of them are just doing it out of love, including all of the founders. I mean, we're doing it because we believe in it, but it's not, and that's over the course of a year, right? So you're working with people who spend a lot of time in this, but they're also trying to find time in between their regular lives. So it's definitely not easy starting up something like this from scratch, but I do believe it's a very rewarding thing to do, and um, all of these things that we overcome, like, okay, yeah, we got a liquidity injection from those people. Oh yeah, we found our audit. Oh yeah, we the UI is good now. Oh yeah, the code is finished, or whatever. All of these things are the small celebrations.
Just as all the pieces of the puzzle start coming together.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm really looking forward uh, to it all happening, and this also brings me to stuff like how to work with tokens that are of lower supply, of lower liquidity, because that's not what we originally designed it for. What I originally designed it for, like how to work with, for example, PDI has lower liquidity, under 1 million, and but XUSD, for example, I would love to list that, but that is like a really small token, and the same goes for something like Love, maybe, because it would be nice to work with them and list that token, but that's also smaller. So we started thinking about that,
In the
like
sense of its
how
total
can we?
liquidity, you mean?
I'm sorry.
In the sense of their total liquidity.
Yeah, total liquidity, but also just total supply. They're just smaller projects yet. They're not that big yet.
Ah, sure, sure, sure. Okay.
And because these tokens are not that big yet, and the supply and the liquidity is therefore also not that big yet, you can't really launch it without, uh, like all of it. You need to launch it isolated. But and isolated in the BetterBank system means that you've got a favor LP that you can borrow against, but then you can only borrow the token for it. So, for example, PDI is going to launch isolated. So what that means is the DAI, or the DAI favor, the PDI favor liquidity pool is going to be collateral only for DAI, and that still works. I mean, it just means if you don't have cross landing, so you can't really short
What's
it or
cross
long
landing?
it. Oh, cross landing means that, for example, you use your PDI and favor collateral to borrow Pulse, or to borrow PulseX. And then that means you can effectively long or short certain positions. So with BDI, we won't necessarily be able to do that, but you still get the interest rates, you still get, the capture, everything else of the system. So it's still going to be profitable. At least that's what I think. But it's there will be less of the options available that, for example, are going to be available to Pulse and PulseX on the BetterBank system. But then you don't want to stay isolated forever. So, you start thinking about, okay, how to build liquidity so that we can get out of this situation. And what was beautiful about that is that we came to a point where we saw like, okay, this could work for to actually build up liquidity for tokens that don't have it yet. And when you get to that point, it means that you can actually launch on new chains, on chains that basically, they've just launched, they maybe have one DEX and there's barely anything in it yet. And they're like, okay, now we need projects. And it's really hard for a new blockchain to come out of that situation. They have probably developers around who want to help. They have, probably still a lot of funding that they would like to spend in grants or whatever, but they need projects. And now with this new way of going about it, we might be a project that can actually launch somewhere and then start building the infrastructure that a new chain needs. So we can start building new infrastructure for young tokens, and we can start building infrastructure for young chains. And once you're there, that is a really cool value proposition.
I see.
BetterBank rewards LP providers in which tokens? It works entirely differently. You're not an LP provider. You're actually in the Stronghold. You deposit a certain token that then gets lended out to the Wildlands. So in this example, it says here Ethereum USDT, which you see on screen. So you would provide, because this is about Arbitrum, right? This UI. You would provide Ethereum or USDT. Yeah, I don't think that one is working yet.
I'm just curious to see if it does. But
it's probably still going to link you to the Arbitrum UI. Yeah, so it's almost done, but it's yeah. Sorry about that. So you provide that, and then on the Wildlands side, there's a whole system where you can get favor, which you then put it on you deposit that on the Wildlands side to borrow these assets against. And the way that you deposit that is, you need to go back, go up, go back to home, that button over there. No, with the link there, yeah. And now go to Wildlands.
Oh yes, I'm loading that up.
Green button, not the orange one. The green one.
I know.
Okay. All right. Anyway, so and then you borrow against that in liquidity pool form, and that is actually deposited in a flash loan structure. So the fact that you have liquidity means that you have collateral. So you get rewarded by the fact that it is collateral to borrow against. That is the way that it works. And that also brought us to a next problem that we recently solved, because we had the issue that all of the collateral in the system would be, all of the LP in the system would be collateral. And that would cause issues with liquidations. I ran calculations where I imagined that everyone would get liquidated at once, which means a complete 50% liquidation. And that is it's a hypothetical possibility. So you need to plan and prepare for it. And the outcome of that calculation was that the LP would then reduce in value by 13%. And if the LP would then reduce in value by 13%, that would cause immediate new liquidations, which would evaporate everything within seconds and then leave us with bad debt. So that was an issue that we needed to solve. And that is why we created the whole point of an LP cushion that actually builds LP that is not collateral. And therefore we kind of solved that problem. It's in the white paper for people who are interested in stuff like that, but it's a security measure, so most likely people are not really interested in it because it doesn't really lead you to high gains. It just leads you to safety. Yeah, it's but safety is important too. I wouldn't want the system to fail because of an oversight. So I'm often busy, recalculating stuff, trying to attack my own system, stuff like that. And whenever someone else does that, I'm also really thankful. But that also comes to post-launch. We're probably going to baby it for a little bit because once you've launched.
Just out of curiosity,
really... Yeah, go ahead.
can I just sorry to break your flow there, but going back to that, when you say you're always thinking about those things, and like, how do you actually go about? So even when it came to designing this, is it something that are you designing it with pen and paper, or have you got some sort of software, or like Microsoft Word? Like, how are you like brainstorming these kinds of ideas and doing the math and calculations and
well, pen and paper is certainly part of it. Calculations with just a calculator is also definitely part of it. Talking with other people who have designed protocols from scratch is a part of it, because that's a skill set that also makes people inquire about the kind of attacks that could happen. Talking with multiple developers is a part of it, and seeing them saying okay, this is an attack factor, this is an attack factor, and stuff like that, and then finding solutions for that. So whenever something actually needs software, I would leave it to the developers to say hey, can you calculate this, or can you figure this out, or maybe deploy it on testnet, see what happens. But the whole thing about DeFi is that it can usually just be calculated. It might be a difficult type of formula, but it can be calculated. So it's not always necessary to actually have it coded first, because that's also a lot of time and investment that you then let a developer do. And that also costs money, so it's really making all of those decisions usually brings me to just making the calculations right, and then talking it through with usually just under 10 people, I suppose, who are very knowledgeable, and then seeing if there are issues there.
But it's so cool to just have people that are passionate and working together on this idea together, that you can just go to someone and say, oh, hey, I'm thinking about this, can you just run this through your calculations? Like, you're not the one that has to figure it out, all those certain aspects of it yourself. You're really coming together as a team, and like you said earlier, no one's getting paid yet, so
yeah. And the nice thing about this is that this also works with different projects, right? So the developers from the different projects might help out. Yeah, that's actually a good question. Thank you. No, it's not directly, at least. There is no the only affiliation that you could see is that I am the founder at BetterBank, and I am also community manager at XUSD. Oh, the question, by the way, is BetterBank affiliated with XUSD, for those people who are just listening? Well, So that is the only thing. And then the second thing is that the founders of XUSD, or at least the part of the team, are providing some of the liquidity that BetterBank is starting with. So there is definitely some cross helping there, and there's talks, and we are friendly, but it's not directly affiliated. It's not the same team. So no.
That's a good question, Adrian.
Yeah, I can work with that. So yeah, and there's also that also brings us to new things. Like for example, I would love to in the future list XUSD, for example. But XUSD is such a special token. Like it's got its whole vibe system and it's got its taxes internally and whatever. Like, how are you going to deal with that if you've got a lending and borrowing platform that also does liquidations, and these liquidations often have small margins of profit and stuff like that. So that's definitely something that we need to discuss. And if we list a token like that, then we would need help from the XUSD team, because they would need to whitelist certain contracts. And but on the other hand, it might be interesting for us to have one of these things actually burn XUSD, and then have a vibe pass that might replenish it from another point of view. And stuff like that is fun, but it doesn't make it easy. You really need to want it to list something like XUSD, and now I do think that we have that interest, so it will probably happen at some point. But it's one of the harder things to
No
work
doubt.
with the more innovative tokens. I mean, if it's an easy token that just is a token, then it's easy to list. But
And
yeah.
so, just for anyone who's watching at the minute who has only just heard about BetterBank, so Nikki and I did a live stream. I think it was about 3 or 4 weeks ago, Nikki,
Something
maybe,
like that,
maybe
yeah,
something
3
like
weeks, I
that.
think.
Yeah, so you can check that out on my YouTube. So we do go through this UI and in more detail, but just so everyone is on the same page, do you want to let everybody know which tokens it's going to start with on PulseChain?
Yeah, it's going to start on PulseChain with Pulse, PulseX, and PDI. And PDI is going to be isolated because it doesn't have enough liquidity with Pulse and PulseX. But Pulse and PulseX have enough liquidity with each other, so those are going to allow cross lending. So you can the liquidity pool that serves as collateral for Pulse/Pulse Favor, you can borrow PulseX against that, and the other way around. And for those people who know nothing about BetterBank, it's essentially a tokenized form of fractional reserve lending, which means that everything that enters the Stronghold side, about 80% of that value can be 80% of that value can be utilized elsewhere in the project, and we use that possibility to first of all, pay a high percentage, which is somewhere between 50 and 70% on average. Can be higher, can be lower, but that's the average. On the Stronghold side itself, but also on the Wildlands side, all kinds of liquidity capture is possible that then doesn't necessarily need to be paid back, because on the Wildlands side, people borrow against the token that they get printed for free. And this is a very lengthy story cut short. And this is a thing, by the way, Triple Alliance, you say better bank with a space in between. We're never going to say that it's better bank without a space, and there's a reason for that. Because if we would ever say that this is a bank, I think we would have all kinds of legal trouble. We're not a bank. We're a DeFi project, and we're using fractional reserve lending, which usually banks do. And you can use the Stronghold as a savings account, which is usually with banks. And there's a whole lot of thing going on that are reminiscent of banks, but we're not a bank. We're a better bank, but there's that going on.
Yeah, you have to be really careful with that kind of legal
I
discrepancy
know,
there.
right? I
Yeah.
know, because banks are highly regulated, and we don't ever want to be regulated. I mean, I believe that regulation, there is some good to it at some point, but in the end, I believe that if you have a good product and you're not stealing or rugging or scamming or whatever, then it doesn't necessarily even need regulation. I mean, criminal law is enough in my perception.
Yeah, in an ideal world, the code and the smart contracts would be, I mean, if they were designed in such a way to facilitate basically benevolent actors only, that's the ideal DeFi scenario. So
yeah, and I think whenever you're designing a protocol, whether it's XUSD or BetterBank or whatever else, it needs to be resilient against bad actors, because it's like that is really possible to just think of all the attack factors. And the most beautiful thing, and that's what I consider poetry in DeFi, is when you imagine attacks by bad actors, and you think of how they would attack your protocol, and then you kind of subvert that attack and make it into something that actually benefits the community. Oh, it's okay, man. Because that would be like that's the beautiful thing, right? When someone tries to attack you, and then everybody except for them gets wealthier out of it.
you kind of design against it in a positive way.
Yeah, like because it's obviously someone is going to try to attack it at some point. So you need to be prepared for that. But yeah, I would like for stuff like that to be beneficial to the project, and I also like to think ahead, right? For example, I've already like designed a way to delist tokens, because stuff like that also needs to happen. At some point, you might want to delist tokens, and what do you do with the treasury? What do you do with stuff like that? Like, and because there is all kinds of lending and borrowing going on, so you can't just say, well, it's out now. You gotta, stage it down over time, and then you're left with a whole lot of treasury. What are you doing with that? Because it officially would belong to the community. You can't just rake it in. That would be wrong. So, but how are you going to go with that? And I was thinking, like, okay, but if we're really delisting tokens, we should really consider either the option of donating it to something, or the option of spreading it out over all the Esteem holders again, because that's essentially the share token. So then you can do a huge airdrop after delisting a token, simply like out of the protocol, and say like, hey, everyone who's got Esteem, I could profit from this. And but like, these are not decisions yet, these are just ideas, but I believe it's cool to just think ahead of like, what if this, what if this, what if this, and that's the fun of it as well. And speaking of donations, like I've recently zoomed in on the Amazon. I don't know if you've ever done that, but if you do that on Google Earth or Google Maps, it's really sad to see how much of the rainforest has already turned into pastures. So I was really like, so if you go there, it's like, this is still a healthy area, obviously. If you zoom out and you zoom into more like areas like Paraguay or the south of Brazil, then you see it like becoming smaller and smaller. And I would really love in the future to maybe take on a nature project like the Amazon. Yeah, for example, go to Paraguay over there, go to the north of Argentina or the south of Brazil.
Second,
if you zoom in there,
is this whole thing the Amazon rainforest?
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, all of that is the Amazon. Yeah, it's kind of big, isn't it?
It's huge. Holy shit. Okay, so you're saying, man, that's like a third of the continent. I didn't realize
Yeah,
it was that big.
it's a big piece of wood, but it needs to stay big.
Whoa.
So, and you know, there's rainforest there, and there's
Australia.
also rainforest in Africa, and but these are essential for our Earth to survive, or at least humanity to survive on Earth and all of our creatures. So I would
Of
really
course.
love for it to for example, use gains that were made by BetterBank and say like, hey, we're gonna find ways for people in general to live in harmony with something like that. Or I'm just thinking of, what if I have an endless amount of money to call on, which basically BetterBank should be an infinite money glitch in a way for everyone who uses it, not just me. And what would I do with it? And I'm coming with ideas like that, like, hey, let's make our world more future proof. Let's see if we can defend that kind of stuff. Either there or elsewhere in the world, or
This
go
kind of
against
area.
desertification. Now that's just a mountain ridge, it seems.
So I'm
Zoom out
curious,
again.
where's this?
Go there. Yeah, look at Paraguay, for example. State. Oh, that's the state of Argentina. Go to the left a little bit.
To
That's
the
not
left. Hang on. Bolivia.
state of Acre.
State of Acre.
Oh, those are
Bolivia.
states. Yeah, you see Bolivia, then next to Bolivia.
Here.
You so go. Those are all Brazilian states. Brazilian is a federation, so all of these states are. But look down. They're under Bolivia. There's Paraguay.
Okay. Yep.
Zoom in. All of that used to be forest as well, mate.
It's kind of a catch-22 though, because I mean, a lot of it. It also sustains different parts of humanity, but we definitely don't want to get to a point where. Yeah,
it's not necessarily wrong. I don't necessarily want to point and blame. I don't. That the other thing about, for example, Paraguay is that they have everything on hydro electricity. I mean, that's great.
Wow.
And they're even exporting 80% of their electricity and stuff like that. I mean, I've been researching these countries because I was interested. But it's still good to fight desertification of the world, not just here but everywhere, and because otherwise we won't have many generations left, and that's a whole different story from this bullshit CO2 story that is going around from the government. I mean, who cares about that if you've got this going on? But yeah, utilizing a lending protocol can be very profitable. It's true.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the idea though of putting the money or putting profits back into the world, and I really feel like this is something where hopefully a lot of people in cryptocurrency, or at least a bigger percentage than what exists maybe in the traditional financial system, have that kind of mindset. It's usually younger people, our kind of generation, 20s and 30s, and
I hope so.
their mindset. We've grown up watching the world become eroded, basically.
Yeah. And that's what I feel as well. Like it's incidentally also a wonderful marketing thing, right? If you know that, for example, a BetterBank would really be working with a nature project like that, and is working like to actually defend the world from becoming a desert, then people feel a lot better about investing in a project like that. I would, and therefore, you would simply like to say, okay, so I get like a huge percentage on my savings, and I am helping the rainforest. Okay, let's go, take my money, right? So it's I see win-win for everyone. But that's what I like to work with anyway. I always like to see to make constructions and systems where everybody is winning. And this sounds hard because people are wired to think that someone needs to lose. It's not necessarily true, especially if you're hacking systems like the fractional reserve system. You can just multiply stuff. It works, and that's what we're gonna do. So yeah, that's a little bit of a background thought in my mind is where do I go after this actually makes me and the people around me wealthy and that makes the investors in the protocol wealthy, that makes the protocol itself wealthy. What do we do with that? What is the goal? Like the goal is never going to be money. That would be a stupid goal. The goal should be freedom, a healthy earth, advancement, spiritual peace. I mean, not all of that can be solved with money, but sometimes it helps.
Yeah, I mean, money's just the energy that helps facilitate those things. So,
Yeah. Well, there you go, eh?
yeah, that's
So
cool,
I
man.
was,
I like that. Yeah, I like
yeah,
that thinking, that line of thinking.
Panama kind of hydroelectric supply. Yeah, that's true. About cows, by the way, this is another thing that I figured out recently is that apparently desertification can be like on grasslands has this huge problem, and people are fighting it with fire, which is not working, and people are using all kinds of other methods that aren't working. And the only real way that would be working would be huge herds of cattle grazing and migrating all the time. And they used to do that because they were, being set on the heels or they were being followed by pack hunters. So that's why they would stay together and that's why they would move. And that's what actually kept the soil healthy because they would take the oxidizing grass off of the soil and they would, with their hooves, would mix up the soil again. And the problem with that not happening in many places is that the soil gets packed up and therefore barely anything grows in it. The oxidizing grass doesn't get removed and therefore it goes to chemical reaction, which is actually poisonous, which makes even less plants grow. And then when rain falls, because it will fall, it just floods and evaporates. If it's small enough, it just evaporates and does nothing. And if it's too much, it just floods and destroys everything even more. So we really need to go back to large grazing herds moving from place to place. Like, how are you going to do that? These are interesting questions because it would need to change how people are using agriculture. Because I'm from the Netherlands, for example, and I believe that a lot of agriculture has been copied from Northwest Europe because we were doing that. I mean, it's the reason we have white skin is that we were eating so many grains. So this has been copied from us, but it doesn't work everywhere. I mean, here in the Netherlands, we've got regular rainfalls. But if you go to many other places in the world, there's just a rain season. And if you've got a rain season like that, then you can't build pastures like we do because you'll destroy the earth. It's not working. So
Yeah, there's
stuff
not a
like
lot of
that,
wisdom in the things that we do. There's not a lot of
Yeah,
wisdom. Things should be
not
more
yet, no.
locally sustainable. Yeah, not yet, exactly. I think AI is going to help with all of this as well. So,
Yeah, AI, yeah, it might. I hope so. And then it will do
I
something
mean, it'll just
useful.
help people make better decisions.
Yeah, I hope so. I like that positive outlook on AI. It's sometimes really helpful if you want to figure something out. But and I am actually hopeful about the state of the world. I do see the chaos that is happening within Europe and within the US also within China. I see all that, and I see like the way that Europe is right now clamping down and making sure that people are, like, it's harder for them to leave. I see the law changes that are being designed right now in the Netherlands, which would make it harder to leave. It's basically a financial prison being built. So I see all that stuff going wrong, but at the same time, I also see that innovation starts happening and that there's all kinds of new ideas that can absolutely counter all of this. And I believe that nation states, as they are currently existing, they won't survive another 50 years or so, or at least not as important as they are now. But maybe it's 100. I'm not sure. But I think it's the beginning of the end for nation states. They're just not interesting anymore.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. So
Yeah. But yeah, there's the larger spectrum. So you see, the Earth is still pretty green. It's not so bad. But if you look at, for example, a country like Yemen, I don't know if you ever do, because it's basically just war over there. But that should be a green country. But it's most of it is desert right now. And same goes, there are many of these countries that are turning into deserts quite rapidly.
Africa, man.
Shouldn't happen.
Mm.
And wars are not helping either. Portugal, Spain, for example, is also being, like, it's becoming a desert. I was in Spain last winter, and we stayed there for 4 months, from January to was that April? And it was just dust storms during the winter. Like, all of our stuff was brown. That is not a European climate originally. We don't have that stuff.
Yeah.
Are people building sustainable small farms in the middle of the desert in Arizona, says Grandpa Pulse. Well, I love that, man. That's great. And I think that is the way to go. Like, have sustainable farms, have stuff like food forests, but take care of the soil, man, because it won't stay good if you don't take care of it. Especially now that all of these wild animals are gone. Yeah, look at all the brown. I don't know where have you zoned? Oh, that's Arizona. Yeah, I've been to Arizona, and there's a beautiful forest there as well. Like, I went to the Grand Canyon. So if you approach the Grand Canyon, there's a big pine forest with some. It might be. I don't know, man. It was 2017 or so. It's a beautiful place, by the way. Arizona is really nice. My ex-wife, who was then still my wife, she organized a balloon flight going over Arizona in the morning for my birthday. It was a magical experience, man. It was beautiful.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The US is a beautiful nation, by the way, especially where I was. Like, I was around that Grand Canyon, that beautiful location. They've got some really nice countryside. I mean, it's not usually what we think of when we think of the US, but
USA,
like, they've got
gorgeous.
Yeah, they've got gorgeous nature over there. It's wonderful. I like it.
It's so beautiful, and the diversity is something that I really love. You have all the mountain ranges, then you've got the prairies, and then you've got just the east and the west coast is all different. The different kinds of, it's just, there's so much diversity there. Whereas Australia, for example, it's just quite. I mean, it's still gorgeous. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, it's quite, one side of Australia to the others very similar. Whereas
Mm.
in America, you kind of feel like you're in a different place almost when you go from one side of the country to the other.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there are definitely still beautiful countries in the world, and there's still a lot of beautiful nature in the world. I think it's just important to preserve all of that and to make sure, and that is the most important thing. Before the Industrial Revolution, the desert was still the desert. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's the Industrial Revolution, and it is the westernized way of living. But at the same time, we're not going to relinquish the westernized way of living because of nature. I mean, people just love their comfort. So you need to find a way for people to live within nature harmoniously and still have their comforts. Otherwise, it's not going to work. At least that's the way I'm looking at it. Like, obviously, we also need to teach people a little bit more about something like being connected to nature. And this is an interesting thing, right? I believe that the best way to learn about stuff like that is through traditional medicine, like ayahuasca or psilocybin or stuff like that, because then you've got these plants or mushrooms communicating with your mind on a cellular level. God damn. In a way that actually teaches you um, how to be how to be one with stuff. And the funny thing is that it gives you so many new ideas, man. Stuff like that is healthy, but it's considered to be drug abuse for some stupid reason, even though it's just spiritual medicine. And it would make so many things so much better, I believe, if people would, use that under the guide of shamans and stuff like that. But wishful thinking still. Yeah, grandpa disagrees. That's fine. It's okay. Like, not everyone has to agree. But that's my thought about it. Um, but like, I believe that crypto can definitely be a part of all of this, because if you start having people be decentralized more, then they can do their own thing more. And I believe that people really care about the earth more than that the bigger companies or their governments as a whole do. I think that people would like for nature to do well. So if we can find ways for people to do well within nature using crypto or crypto related products, then I believe that things will be fine. But we need innovation, which let's work
Yeah,
towards.
absolutely. I mean, it's just such a just looking at this, it's just such a foreign, alien-looking thing to me now. This idea of just straight lines, and then this is a state, and then no, over here there's different laws, and then there's these pretend imaginary lines here, and then this is another
Yeah.
state, and then you've
Well,
got this
that
imaginary
you
line
see
here.
that mostly. You see that mostly in the U.S. and in Africa. These places that were just divvied up arbitrarily. If you look
It's
at
just
the
everywhere, bro. Look at, I mean, it's just everywhere all over the world. It's just so,
yeah,
it's so dumb to me now. It's so dumb,
it
that we
is.
keep.
It is. It's
It's
really
just
weird
such a
to have
bizarre
like
thing
thi-
that this is how we're
this is.
living.
Yeah, like animals know no borders, so why should we? But
No.
at the same, yeah, at the same time, you just don't want to have just anyone waltzing around. There's also something like you need to defend your livelihood, and that's of course how nations started happening. It's like, hey, let's band together and make sure that these assholes from wherever they're coming from are not gonna bash our hats in and take our stuff. I mean, it has a point. It's not necessarily wrong. I just think that we're uh, coming out of this stage
Yeah,
at some
definitely.
point.
We definitely are. I'm just tired of it. I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of all the problems and the old men and the aristocracy and the way that they like. I'm just tired of it. It's like I'm living in the future, man. This stuff is like, oh, can we just
Can we
hurry
just
up
skip
and get
that?
on with it and
It's
start having
it's
like
funny.
awesome fun together?
It's funny, by the way, that you mentioned aristocracy, because that who was it again? Um, what not Pilate. Aristotle. Aristotle thought of that. He made kind of like three types of government, with a healthy way and an unhealthy way. And he said, like, okay, so we've got the governance of the many, and the healthy one is called polity, and the unhealthy one is called democracy. And then we've got the governance of the few. The healthy one is called aristocracy, and the unhealthy one is called oligarchy. And then we've got the rule of just one, and then the healthy one would be called monarchy, and the unhealthy one would be despotism. But it's funny that aristocracy is something that we see as evil, whereas in his list it was a good expression of the rule of few, and democracy is something that we see as good, whereas in his list that was actually the bad expression of the rule of the many, where polity would be the good expression. And his reason for naming that the bad expression is something that we actually see happening in the world today, and that is that if everyone gets a vote, even if they have no idea what they're talking about, then demagogues actually rule. So as soon as you have a ghoul narrative that people just latch onto, even if it's a bad narrative, then you get all the votes and then you win. And that is how democracy nowadays is working, and also is eroding itself, because it's not sustainable in this way. Democracy is two wolves and one lamb voting on what is for dinner. Yeah, that's kind of true. I love that one. And polity had a different structure. I don't know it by heart, but it was something like people actually being, knowing what they're talking about when voting, and this is obviously anti equality, which is nowadays big topic. But you need to have leaders that actually know what they're talking about, right? That's what I feel, at least. Leading is a service. It's not a right, and that's also with aristocracy versus oligarchy. If you see leading or being a leader as a reward or a right, then you're looking at it the wrong way, because then you're just looking at, oh yeah, I've got so much power, I can make people do whatever I want because I'm the boss. Yeah, then obviously those people are going to suffer, because you're coming at it from the wrong perspective. You need to look at leadership as a service. Like, okay, so you have the responsibility to make the decisions that are good for everyone. Good luck, bro, because that's difficult. I like being a good leader in whatever shape or form is like a big responsibility that you shouldn't take on lightly. And actually, you might not even want it. If you think of it, why would you take on the responsibility for over so many people? It needs to be worth it. So it's an interesting thing that in our current society we are motivated, it seems, mostly by fear, the fear of losing or the fear of not having enough, and that leads to people controlling the rest of society through that fear of lack. Whereas if you've got a society that is built by giving, where the leaders basically give all that they can and make sure that, hey, I can create this for you, I can create this for you, and this for you, and so on and so forth, and everyone does that to maximum capacity, or whatever that may be, whatever their level of consciousness is, whatever their level of skill is, they would just do what they can. And then if the currency would mostly be based on the respect that they would get from being useful to the community, we get a whole different idea of where money would flow, and therefore what you would need to do to be successful. Ambition would suddenly turn into something like, okay, how can I be more valuable to the community, because then I get a higher status, instead of how can I take more from the community, because then I get a higher status. And for me, it's really interesting to think of government structures that would encourage that, and economic structures that would encourage that. And that is going on in the back of my mind. And that is also what brought me to creating something like BetterBank, because it is basically a structure that gives to everyone who is using it, because, basically we're multiplying money through this fractional reserve system. Therefore, people will want to put money into it because it gives them more back. It's a viral structure, and I believe that attention to it will automatically bring it to the success that it needs to be to be a disruption for the current system, and that will be a part of the disruption that DeFi should bring to the system. It should be a system shock coming from decentralized finance to centralized finance. It needs to be that kind of, it needs to be this disruptive.
My perspective is starting to shift on that.
Yeah? What's your thought?
In the sense of this idea that DeFi needs to be a shock on the old system. I used to have maybe more of an anarchist kind of point of view, where it's like, okay, that whole system will collapse, the one that exists now, and then something better will replace it. But now I'm thinking it's not going to be like that. I'm thinking it's more going to be like DeFi is going to heal the current system, almost like a not an immunization, because that's not really the right kind of a word, but just something that will fix everything and clear all the inefficiencies and all the problems with it in some way, shape, or form. That's how I see this as being, rather than a kind of like opposing forces. They end up becoming like a coexisting force.
Yeah, but I'm looking at that more like, for example, the way that you see in nature, the way that mushrooms, for example, take control of a tree, especially when it's dying. Like, obviously that tree is then no longer useful, or at least no longer using different things, and then the mushroom is growing. What? Why do you put that one up?
Because you're talking about, I wanted to go back to this for a minute as well, because I wanted to, you've gone back to the mushroom, so I'm actually, I'm curious to why Grandpa Pulse disagreed with you. I think that's when you were talking about the psychedelics.
I was talking about traditional medicine, plant medicine, mushroom medicine, stuff like that.
Because I also am not opposed to it, but I don't think, I definitely don't have a as open it. It's not. I'm not anti it, but I'm curious to see why he is anti it. Because I'm more neutral, so I'm curious to see what his perspective is. But he might not be there anymore. So, but these are some. I mean, if Grandpa Pulse comes back, leave a response, and we'll go back to it. These are some interesting. Yeah, there's some interesting concepts. So if you don't want to be called a bank, do not put it in the name. And totally agree. The word bank has a lot of negativity attached to it. So.
Yeah. What are you laughing? It's like he's laughing about something. But anyway, Rafael F says, if you don't want to be called a bank, do not put in a name. It says it's not a bank, BetterBank, a bit of clumsy marketing. Yeah, you can say that. Well, I disagree on that, obviously. I think that you can call things whatever you want. And I think it's like, obviously it functions as a bank. It does that. But if you call it a bank and you say that from the position of, it doesn't necessarily function as a bank, because a bank, makes it The whole point is this: like a traditional bank says, "Give me the funds, and I will take care of it," and we will make sure that everything is managed, because you've got all kinds of financial management there. You've got bank owners making decisions and either giving loans or not giving loans and setting interest rates and all of that. And we don't do none of that. We just create code that manages all of that. And by putting assets in there, it automatically, gets used in a certain way, depending on how the users use it. But that is not the same. And the only reason that I want to avoid our team, I don't really care what other people do, but our team saying, using the space in between the two words, is because if our team says stuff like that, then, you might get legal hassle. And yeah.
I mean, I actually really like it, to be honest. I think it's such a cool name. And I like that I can see what Adrian is saying, and I can see what Raf is saying as well. But I like what you guys have done. You're putting a positive spin on the concept. It democratizes it in a way that, I mean, it's not. I like it. I just really like it. I like the concept of it. It's using some bank style concepts. I just think it's really cool, and it does put a positive spin on it. So I actually think you guys have done a good job with it.
That's true. Yeah, sure, it has a lot of negativity attached to it because of what the banks are doing, but we're DeFi, right? We're not going to do that.
Exactly.
Grandpa Paul says, I let too many demons enter me using hallucinogenics. Okay, I can understand that. By the way, let me clarify here. Demons can be understood in many ways. They can be understood as actual entities that are demons that enter you, depending on what your faith structure is. But it can also be more in a Jungian perspective, where it would be your diamonds in the original Greek sense of the word, where it would simply be those things that are plaguing you, those things and ideas that are plaguing you. And Grandpa Pulse means the actual entities. Well, that is a belief system that I can vibrate with, but I just want to state it this way because a lot of people, especially coming from a more mechanistic perspective of the universe and a less conscious perspective of the universe, would basically switch off right now. But you can still, within a mechanistic and more scientific understanding, you can still work with this. And it happens because if you're traumatized in whatever kind of form, this whole thing starts, you start healing that kind of stuff. And so you start resonating with all of the darkness that you've got within you and all of the bad vibes that you've got within you, because to heal that, it is necessary to look at it. And therefore, the hallucinogenics or the psychedelics are going to help you do that. And that is tough. And especially if you're not in a safe surroundings, and if you're not guided by, good music or a good person or a good shaman, then you might derail. You might even turn psychotic. I've worked in actual in psychiatric clinics where we had people admitted to, or like an acute psychiatric clinic that I worked in, where people were admitted after a psychotic breakdown after having used or actually abused LSD. But that doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means that they used it wrong.
Yeah, I mean, even this. So my perspective on quote unquote demons is, we all have them, and we all call them different things. But I believe that every human is a demon. Every person is a demon. It's a very
interesting,
very extreme perspective. But because we're not living as the truth, we're living as our false selves. So when we die as that false self, and those false selves become the demons and the spirits and all of those things, which end up just consuming more energy and become these bigger things. So I think that this is work that everybody needs to do in some way, shape, or form. But I don't really know if psychedelics is necessarily the answer. I like the idea of psychedelics.
It's not definitely not the answer for everyone. That's not what I'm saying. Like it's good for some people. It's not good for everyone. Some people should just take a more psychological approach. Some people should use a more physical approach. Some people should use meditation more. Some people should use lucid dreaming. It's dependent on the kind of person that you are and also the kind of stage that you're in. And when it comes to us being demons or spirits or whatever, it's an interesting look. If you look at the older Egyptian way of looking at it, I believe we have 7 forms to our soul, or 7 aspects to our soul. Where one of them is the life force, for example, and just purely the life force. The other one is your kind of the way that you think, or basically your personality. And then there's 5 others, right? And some of them they believed would actually move on to a next life, and another one would just return to the whole, and another one would just die with the body. And it's interesting to look at stuff like that. Like all of that got overhauled by the conquest of the monotheistic faith. So we've lost a lot of that, a lot of this scholarship, basically. But it's interesting.
So you mentioned stages. So you're saying, okay, it depends where people are at in this. Everyone's at different stages. So you said, oh, maybe this is for those persons, that's for that person. So what's the ultimate stage for you?
Would I know? I don't know, man. It's the ultimate stage, as in moving towards higher consciousness, you mean?
Is that what you would define it as? Just moving towards higher consciousness?
No, I think you can move either way. You can move towards a more constricted form of consciousness if you want to have more extreme experiences as a soul. That's what I believe. But you can also move. So that would basically mean doing evil for the sense of evil. I believe the Canaanites the Canaanites did that. They actually sometimes on purpose did something evil so that they would have a new experience to make themselves grow with. But that is at least what is being told about them. I wouldn't like that. I would like to. I think that this world is dark enough right now, so let's let's just build something beautiful, and there's enough experiences to go with that. Yeah, there you
go. What are you moving towards? So when you're saying, okay, there's some people who are like, okay, they might be ready for psychedelics, other people for meditation, other people for whatever therapy. Like, is in your mind, in your belief system, is there something that we're all moving towards, and then there is like a final destination that every human is headed to?
I can't say that for sure. I believe that if it's your intention and you set your destiny to become more one with basically reality and with the universe, you automatically become more powerful, but also less prone to caring about power, because you lose the kind of feeling of lack that wants, like, if you have a feeling of lack, then you want to be powerful because you have this feeling of lack, and therefore you want to be in control. But as soon as you start relinquishing this feeling of lack, then you would come to a higher level of power because you have this abundance mindset, which would actually make you more powerful. But at the same time, you wouldn't really want to abuse that power anymore. Some people do, and I believe that there's definitely dark spirituality going on, controlling the masses through all kinds of, subversive tactics, hacking our dopamine system, using a subliminal programming in all kinds of commercials and in ways that people are being deceived right now. But it's not necessary. I believe that if you really the Meek Show and embrace the lack. Yeah, in a way, like if you're just
that's the lack that it means, though.
nah.
The meek
I mean,
is having a simple and a clear mind without want.
yeah,
I think that's what it means, rather than just having nothing. I don't. That's just my belief. I don't necessarily think that it means being poor. Being poor in spirit means
no,
that I have no want. I have no self. That's how I
yeah.
interpret.
And it's also like heavily, like we must also realize that Christianity and especially the Bible is heavily influenced by Paul, Apostle Paul, who was a Roman, and therefore, you know, like he actually edited stuff. Like this is in 300 BC or somewhere abouts. So there's some
I've
like
been
this
hearing
is
all
not what
about
Christ,
the Apostle Paul lately. I've been hearing. Is this so?
not
Paul is
Saul,
Saul. Is
Paul,
that the same
Apostle
dude?
Paul. No, it's a
But
different
yeah,
one.
but I think maybe there was a dude. His name was Saul, and then he got his name changed to Paul or John or something. Is that correct,
I don't
Grandpa
know.
Paul? Saul is Paul. Yeah, there we go. Saul is Paul.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've been hearing so much more about this dude lately. I never knew
he,
about this
he
guy.
did a lot, man. Like in that same period, the Romans actually, you know, started adopting Christianity, and it did them well, because Christianity therefore gave them the idea of divine right. That if you are like, it's not necessarily he suffered horribly. Okay,
Bro
um,
had a beard and a half, man. I'm envious as AF on that.
huh?
Oh no, but he was. This was a different dude then, maybe the one that Grandpa Paul's talking about. Because if Jesus called him Saul, then he was in Jesus' time. But who you're talking about is someone 300 years later. You're saying edited the
No,
Bible.
maybe that's a different guy.
Oh,
Man,
okay.
I don't know. I consider mysticism to be much more interesting than, you know, looking at books. But books can teach you good stuff.
What do you
I,
say that
I,
again? You look at considering mysticism as more
yeah,
interesting than books.
mysticism, like actually, going.
Experiencing.
Yeah, like actually going, projecting your mind somewhere and then go talk to a certain spirit. Like if you're interested in talking to Jesus, then go talk to Jesus. Don't read the book. Talk to the guy.
Yeah, I've got a very see, I'm very delicate to try and I don't hope. Yeah, I'm just going to express my opinion. I hope you don't take offense to this, but I see like even psychedelics and those kinds of experiences as very simply just going into the subconscious, and that's it. People
That's a
think
way
that
to
it's
look at
going
it.
to be some like higher plane and coming out of myself and going into the universe, but it's literally just a universe inside of your mind, and it's really just going into your subconscious. So whatever you think is the universe, whatever you have in there is what you're going to have.
Hmm.
So if you didn't even know anything about Jesus, you would not. If you had this experience and you'd never heard of Jesus before, you wouldn't have a psychedelic experience, and then you'd find Jesus in this psychedelic experience because you're literally just going into your mind. That's
Yeah,
my
you find
kind of take
something
on
else
it.
that looks like it. That is like
Well,
it's a personified part of yourself in a way.
right, yeah, because well, I mean, it's
The
within you as well.
holy, the Christ, right? And
Mm,
you can personify that if you want. In whatever you
right.
can call it, Krishna, you can call it Christ, you can call it Yggdrasil. It doesn't really matter. There's so much
What was that
to
last one
find.
you said?
Yggdrasil is the tree of life in the Norse mythology, and the tree of life has the roots all the way into the darkness and the crown all the way into the light. So it means that to have everything connected, and that is one of the mystical connections that is actually also considered Christ, because Christ is also considered, you know, from the crown chakra all the way to the lower chakras as well.
Mm,
So these are principles that are similar. They're not the same, but they're similar. And
mm.
all of these faiths and religions, all of them have very interesting wisdom that you can use for your own learning, in my perspective.
I'm definitely in agreement with that, and I think yeah, I mean I've
Poland
said
will be a desert within 20 years. I'm sorry. What?
oh, I
Oh
think
man.
Raf is listening on. Maybe he's a little bit behind on the stream as well. So
No, that's great. Like it's still, you know, I didn't know that.
Wow. Within 20 years.
Yeah. So he's saying my country, Poland, apparently will be a desert within 20 years. Oh, wow. Yeah. And Poland is green at the moment. Like, it's a very nice and beautiful country with good stuff.
Jacob's ladder happens in the pineal gland 1,000 years before Hinduism.
1,000
Yeah.
years before Hinduism, possibly. I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole because I don't really care between those religions, Hinduism and Christianity, or,
As in,
different
you
sides
don't
of the
like
same
them?
coin. No, they're fine. But
As you see them all as talking about simple.
all of the divine is interesting, and the way that you understand it is personal.
Yeah, I'm certainly in agreement. It's kind of like this. We can carve out this block, this bit of land here, and say,
It's all the earth.
oh well, Africa is well exactly. Yeah, that's how I take it. Truth doesn't exist in the names. That existence, when you pray to it, it's not going to go. You're calling me God. My name's actually Allah. What are you doing? That's
Exactly. Like,
my
if you're in the desert, then you say the earth is dry, and if you're in the rainforest, you say it's wet, and if you're in the north, like all the way up there, you say the earth is cold, and if you're up in a mountain, you say the earth has a beautiful view. I mean, but all of it's the earth, and the same goes for divinity, right? If you can understand divinity whatever way you like, and it's not necessarily that one version is untrue and the other one is true. It's just that one of them is probably, like, some of them are more workable than others. But that's a different thing. It's more like efficiency, in my perspective.
Like 300 years after Jesus died, that there was this. You mentioned that there was this Roman guy who edited the Bible, and I just wonder.
Yeah, the Romans have done a lot of edits, and they've also persecuted. Like that's what comes up with these Dead Sea Scrolls, right? That they're being found.
Consider that either. It's like, of course they would have done it. You don't even have to
because the Romans did that with everything. They did that with every faith.
Romans, it's like, it's just humans. Look what we're doing now. Look what we're doing with the news. We manipulate reality to suit our perspective. Like reality then was a book. So what like it's very, 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 very plausible that it was manipulated in some way, shape, and form.
Well, Grandpa Paul's here says the Bible never changes, and I don't want to go against someone's view of their own religion, but I want to say this about it. If you look at different versions of the Bible which exist, then there's obviously, you see that some of them have different wording than others. So to say that it never changes is just something that you can say, like, but this is a Bible, and this is a Bible, and this is a Bible, and they have different wording. If you look at the Ethiopian one, it's different from the Catholic one. And if you look at the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is also like Bible texts, they are completely different from everything else. So I wouldn't say that it never changes. Maybe it was a wonderful piece of wisdom in its origin, but that, like, people have been running away with it and adding stuff and removing stuff in a way that they saw fit. And
I mean,
that's sad, but it happened.
I would love to think that it hasn't been edited, but humans across humanity, across the entire scope of human history, have been entirely corruptible forever. So I just don't see it being plausible that this one book, which was the most powerful book on the planet, that they just kind of left it there and thought, no, we won't touch that, but everything else will manipulate, but just not that.
It's changed. It's absolutely changed. Like, the texts have changed over times, and whatever you think of that, and if you think that it's still valid, that's fine. Got nothing against that, of course.
So many things about all these Dead Sea Scrolls, I guess. Yeah, I mean, all this stuff, man. Like, Yeah, see, even like in terms of religion, I mean, I like all the religions, but I'm just like, okay, now is the age of becoming. So
Yeah.
all the things that the religions are talking about is being fulfilled now on earth. It's being fulfilled now, but people can't see it. They can't see it, they can't hear it. And it's a real pity. It's torturous to my being on a daily basis because it's like, oh, there is a method now that those things that are being spoken about can be fulfilled through, but people are still so attached to the words and waiting for a savior to come that will suit the conception of their mind. But a savior like that will never come. It will never come. No one's going to believe. If Jesus came down, who's going to believe it, bro? Honestly, who's going to believe it? Well, he's going to come in a robe from the clouds, and then what?
Mhm.
There's going to be someone's going to record it, a little, and a little, and it's always with a dodgy camera. So it'll be like a blurred video camera of Jesus coming down from the clouds, and everyone's going to say it's fake. Who's going to believe it?
The funny
Really
thing
think
is
about
that the funny thing is that I believe there's one of these prophecies about the Antichrist, and the prophecy about the Antichrist is also that this Antichrist will do all kinds of fake wonders. So obviously, a lot of people
Yeah,
that will see someone working wonders will say, "Well, these are the fake wonders. Just you wait." I mean, there's always an excuse to not believe something.
yeah. I
So
just wonder, man.
and as long as there is an excuse for people to not believe something, there will be people not believing it.
Mm, yeah.
Um,
Uh,
I, I believe that it's good for us to find our divinity within and to find our goodness within. And
mm,
whatever religion you follow for that, whether you open yourself to Jesus in your heart or whether you open yourself to just your inner goodness, um, yeah, that's the prophecy. Fine, but whichever religion or whichever spiritual path you're taking, uh, uh, whether it's Buddhism or none of it, if you're taking your own path, like I am doing, um, then you need to create a good being out of yourself, because obviously we are flawed, um, but we can become better and we can become more beautiful beings over time. So as long as we work on ourselves, then we can do that, and then we can extrapolate that again and be good to the world. I mean, this is, in my perception, the goal that we should strive towards. It doesn't necessarily mean that everyone will.
and to me, this is like, yeah. I don't want to maybe necessarily use people as examples, but this type of thing where we just can't accept each other's words. So then there's a wall between Grandpa Pulse's mind and Raf's mind, for
I
example.
see it happening. Yeah, they are fighting each other. Um, I
I
don't.
wouldn't, maybe not fighting, but yeah, just
Yeah,
but that's how we all are. So how can there ever be any like really think about that? If it's my mind that's blocking me from you,
yeah,
there has to be a method for me to come out of my mind. That be
yeah,
the ultimate solution? To then see, oh, actually, we're all just one.
yeah.
Because because I can
That
only
would
see
be
it from my
beautiful.
mind.
I believe that humans are actually naturally, to a degree, naturally psychic, and we are able
Oh,
to
yes.
communicate with each other in multiple forms. But we are absolutely not very used to doing that, and we're also not very
Heard
good
of
at it,
telepathy tales.
especially not in our current society. So, but I believe that if we do focus on stuff like that, and if we do focus on communication, not just words, but also energies, magnetic fields, stuff like that. Funny how science is now catching up with that and say, like, oh, humans actually do have a magnetic field. Oh, humans actually do have these energy levels, and oh, these meridians actually are, noticeable with our machinery now. So
Mm,
it's not bullcrap. It's there and you can measure it. But I believe that if we start utilizing those skills and practice them, then we might get a whole lot further in our communication. And I've seen that happening already when I practice my own sensing of people and I meet them in real life. not like this. I mean, I can look at you and use my eyes to see what kind of person you are, but it's different when you're actually with me here in the same room. Then I sense your energy that is around you with my own field, right? So I feel the interaction, and that actually gives you so much information if you listen to it, that it makes a whole lot of things easier. For like it makes it easier to communicate because you can see someone and you can sense that they are well-meaning, for example. That is something that animals are using a lot as well, and we've simply stopped doing it. Love your enemies. Which other god commands this?
Have you heard of the telepathy tapes?
Balder. I'm sorry?
Have you heard of the telepathy tapes?
No, not necessarily that one. What's that?
Yeah, it's basically kids who are. The telepathy tapes a podcast that explores the experience of non-speaking autistic individuals.
Oh yes, I have.
Abilities.
I've seen some part of that. Yeah, actually, I know someone. I'm no longer in contact, but I knew someone who actually found his faith because he got a daughter that was not able to communicate, and then he started. He found a way to spiritually communicate with her, and then could actually bring that into reality, and also recognize that this was actually true. But he kind of checked it. And therefore he started developing the same skill set because he wanted to communicate with his daughter that was otherwise nonverbal. It's interesting that people are actually practicing that and learning that kind of stuff. But it's not easy. Like you need to start using a muscle that you haven't used for ages, and then you need to trust that. And while your mind is capable, or your brain is capable of telling you all kinds of nonsense, right? So you might also doubt yourself, and you might even be right to doubt yourself. It's not an easy thing, but people can, for example, learn to always know where north is. This is a magnetic thing that we have in our brain, and we can learn that just like beluga whales can do that. They're better at it, we're worse at it, but we can also do it. And I've also, when I was, I used to do sword fighting when I was a bit younger, like medieval sword fighting. But my instructor was interested in what was the name again? No, like the guy who wrote the Nine Rings, who was a samurai, Takeshi Kitano or something like that. I'm not sure. And he was interested in these spiritual ways of fighting. So he instructed us to be in a circle, and then others, we would close our eyes, and other students would walk around us. And as soon as someone would step into our circle, we would eventually, after some practice, need to respond to the fact that someone entered our circle, but not just respond, but with our eyes still closed, know whether it was an attack or a friendly move. So if someone would have their hand stretched out or their sword raised, and we would have to, for example, make a defensive position if we thought it was an attack, and we would have to put our sword away and stretch out our hand if we thought it was friendly. And after a while, we actually learned doing that. And that is,
Sorry, were you blindfolded? Did you say? Is that?
Yeah, we just had we made sure that we couldn't see, and then started learning that. And that is something you can practice. You can just practice to sense whether someone is friendly or not friendly, how close they are, stuff like that. Of course, you're also using your ears, but you can't use your ears to notice whether someone has their sword raised or not. That's not.
And so over time, you found that that people were more accurately guessing,
responding. Yeah, it
responding
was
to the
way 50%. Like you get to a point
Isn't that
where
fascinating?
people, yeah,
I
and you
mean,
notice this also with martial artists. They always know whether when they are attacked or not. And you can see it in a much easier way. You always notice when someone is staring at you, even if you don't see them. You feel the eyes in the back of your head.
yes, yes, yes. This is something that I'm very in tune with myself. Yeah, and
Yeah,
so I think it's something that you can practice, but I also think it's something where if we just clear our mind, we've got too many things in our mind, and it's actually our natural state. So it's almost
yeah,
like we can feel the ripples of people's thoughts in the ocean of oneness. But if I'm too inside of my head, I
you
can't
can't.
hear
Then
anything
you
that's going
can't.
on because I've got too much
You
stuff in
can't.
here. But the
Yeah,
more,
and then
so I can testify to that because I've done a lot of work to try and clear my own thoughts, and it's not like I'm
yeah.
100%, but I know when people are thinking about me from across the other side of the country, and even like, when you said if we're in each other's presence, there's like a certain
Mm.
aura, but that aura also it transcends the time and the space too. I can feel your being as well,
Yes.
yeah, as I would
If
be
you
able to in the same room as you.
the more practiced you become, and but also the more that you believe such things are possible, because you need that for it to be possible, then the better you could become at it. And yeah, you found it. The Book of Five Rings, Miyamoto Musashi. It's a really
Yeah,
interesting read. It's very small. Um,
yeah. And even on this telepathy thing, telepathy tapes, the thing that I wanted to say about it that was very interesting is it's because they loved each other. That's why they were able to communicate in
yeah,
that way. Because the mother loves their child so much, and the child just obviously loves their mum so much, and that's why
yeah.
they're able to communicate on that level. It's through love. Isn't that
Obviously,
beautiful?
it's through care, it's through love. I believe that there's two ways. You can either have it through fear or through love, and both work. But one of them is obviously more pleasant.
I never thought
Like,
about it from that perspective, but I think you're right. Actually, it would
yeah,
have that
if
sort
you look at a hunter prey relationship, then the prey notices when the hunter is focused on them. So, like a hunter always needs to take care to move as soon as they really start locking in on the prey, because if they wait too long, then the prey will realize and will take off.
of interesting. What's your
Yeah, you
perspective
see
on
that.
this comment? Oh, go on.
I'm
Sorry.
sorry.
Did you? Were you? I'll let you continue with what you were saying. Sorry.
No. I was just saying, like, you see that in the animal kingdom, you see that a lot. Like where with
Mm,
like a cat being like a cat staring, and then eventually like the prey animal just realizing and noticing that. And you
mm,
also see that with people who are in dangerous jobs. For example, criminals. That's a dangerous job. If you have enemies like that, but also if you are in the army, for example, if you have actual enemies that would like to sneak up on you, you start learning you start using your senses more. And I believe that is the kind of connection that is based on fear rather than love.
makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. It's just the polar opposite, isn't it? So,
Yeah,
well, I mean, close to the polar opposite. What's your
sort of.
perspective on this? Because I can see the lads are having a debate about this. So, love your enemies. Which are the God commands? So, not necessarily about the God part of it, but some of the other lads in here are saying, "Oh, love your enemies is impossible. I don't need to love my enemies. It's egoic code." What's your perspective on this? Just out of curiosity.
My perspective is that even a thing that you can love can still be flawed, and you can still see the danger of it even though you love it. And so, for example, if I would have built a bridge over a dangerous water and I would have put a lot of time into it, then of course I love that bridge. But if I then realize that the bridge has become dangerous or destabilized, I still love that bridge and I'm still going to destroy it. So I can love my enemies and still destroy them.
Interesting. It's a very nuanced perspective.
Because
Hmm.
simply because, like, and I would rather heal them, but you can't always heal everyone, or you
No.
don't have the time. and then, you know, if you can't heal them, then you would like to expel them or get them out of your environment, but then they might go and harm something else, right? You can't just abandon the bridge because other people might start using it and fall into the water. So sometimes you need to act, and that is unfortunate, but it, you know, that I would say that is justice. You just act upon justice.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I think it's possible. I don't think it's possible for a human mind.
What's your perspective,
to
by the way? Because I'd be interesting to hear yours as well. Do you think you should love your enemies, and how?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't think humans are capable of loving their enemies, and if they are, it's like a okay, so there's the human mind, and then there's God's mind that we have within. God's mind within, yes, that can love enemies because
Absolutely.
there actually is no enemies. It's just the oneness. So it's just me. There is no enemies. There wouldn't be any enemies. But from the human mind perspective, I don't think that humans are truly capable of loving their enemies. They'll always harbor something in their heart, deep within their heart, very deeply, that they'll cover up with. Maybe they can. It's like positive thinking. Oh, I'm gonna love my enemy. Oh, I definitely love my enemy, and I'm layering all these other positive stuff over it. But at the very root, there would be no love whatsoever. That's what I think. But below that, below even that human mind, that's where the God's love is. So yes, that's where it's capable of loving your enemies, because it actually is no enemies.
Yeah, I believe that there's this divine level where you simply realize that all of it is one, and even the things that are defunct, which are usually, you know, from your perspective, the enemies, or the communication is defunct, could still be loved. I utilize that unconditional love. For example, when I this is a personal story, but I've worked as a nurse a lot, over 10 years, a registered nurse. And I always try to avoid working with the severely disabled because I thought that wouldn't be for me. But because of the political situation in the Netherlands, freelance nurses had barely anywhere to go. And the only place that I could still go was going into working with the heavily disabled. So, all right, I'll do that because I've got the diploma, I can do the work. Sure, let's go. But on a personal level, so conditional love, I mean, I see that these are good people, but they annoy the hell out of me. I'm not liking their ways of communication. I'm not liking the way that they act. They scream in my ear. They sometimes, you know, try to hit me because they think it's funny, but they mean nothing by it because they're just, you know, their IQ is 50 or lower or whatever it is. It's not good, at least. Some, like a lot of them, couldn't even speak. So I really call on that universal love, like the unconditional love. Like, hey, but they are human. They mean well. There's nothing bad about them. So let's focus on that love. But to me, that was exhausting. So I believe that yes, you can focus on the unconditional love, but as long as you are incarnated, as long as you are here in the human realm, conditional love should also really be in the right level.
Interesting. Yes,
That's what
there's almost like a force of will to try and love.
Yeah. Man, it's a lot of work. I was exhausted every time I came home. I was like, man, there's so much you got to take without being able to retaliate, right? Because you can't retaliate against someone who doesn't know any better. You shouldn't, really. It's like retaliating against a cat. You don't do that either.
Yeah.
But it's still annoying.
Of course. Yeah. And I feel like that proves my theory on it. So
yeah, I think you're right. In this way, I think you're right. Is that if you delude yourself that you only have unconditional love, then you're an idiot. But I do believe that unconditional love is a part of humanity because we have this divinity within, so we can definitely reach it. It's just not the totality of it. And conditional love is more important. For example, for forging relationships, it needs to be reciprocal, and conditional love makes it reciprocal. For example, and this comes back to the whole thing about crypto and everything, and healing the world. You can't just ask anyone to all the time, give sacrifice for the greater cause of healing the world if it doesn't give them anything. You can't ask them to sacrifice for the greater cause of everyone being free if it doesn't give them anything. You have to create a way that it is reciprocal, and so that someone gets something out of doing good. Otherwise, it's not very functioning. And like it may work for those people who overcome themselves and who sacrifice themselves, but like that's not the majority of people, and it's also not necessarily healthy in the long run for those people. Even I see here you have unconditional love for your children. Some people do, but not to, like, also not to totality. And even people who have unconditional love for their children will still recognize that their children are sometimes really annoying, and that they're not loving that, even though they won't hurt their children for it or expel them for it. That there's this conditional love as well. Yeah, see.
Yeah, at the root of that, it's a love actually of myself.
Yeah.
It came out of my body. Nobody loves anybody else's children unconditionally, so I don't want to say this in a nasty way, but it's a kind of a self-centered love.
Maybe. I mean, I believe that people are inclined to love children, but that is also a biological thing because we recognize it as something indefensive, or basically something that can't defend itself, but also something that is procreating our species, right? But we, like animals in general, love young animals. You see that, and that is also why you sometimes see deers being raised by cats. Like, what is happening there? A predator raising a prey. That can happen, or a cat raising chickens. It's funny, but it happens. and the other way around, like there's a dog who has raised a couple of lions, because we recognize that young animals are defenseless and cute and need care, even if they are another species.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the ultimate feedback loop is to realize. I had Sonny say to me today in Sonny's pub that you got to take care of yourself, and I still have human mind, but the ultimate hack is you're me. Everything is me. Not me, this me, not Stephen. No. The God, me. So when I'm taking care of others, I'm actually taking care of myself. It's the ultimate feedback loop. It's the eternally it's infinitely applicable, and it's like it's infinite. It's infinitely cyclical.
But you need discernment though. Because there's one thing that I learned. I learned this in the army actually, where they teach you to take care of yourself as if you are a tool. Because to be an effective tool for your company, for your group within the army, you need to take care of yourself. So you need to take care, of course, of your weapon. You need to take care, of course, of all of your stuff. But you also need to take care that you are well rested, that you are well trained, that you do everything so that you are an effective tool. So when you're taking care for other people, that's the same thing applies. Obviously, it is good to take care of other people, but not to the detriment of yourself. You need to also take care of yourself so that you remain an effective person to take care of others.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, there's like I think that's quite perfect actually. Yeah, because I'm just gonna give everybody else food and I'll just starve to death. Then what good are you?
then what, right? And then they have food, and they wouldn't necessarily know how to come by it because that was your skill, and now you're gone, and then they're where they've not learned anything. So sacrifice, I believe, is not always the good way to go. I think in many cases it's not. You need to see yourself as part of the herd that you're taking care of.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. It's one and the same. Yeah, breaking through to that mind is not an easy feat. It is most certainly an easy feat.
Did you imagine that we would end up here in this stream talking about this?
No.
We were talking about cryptocurrencies, right?
Yeah, then we started talking about making the world a better place, which is really the things that I'm truly passionate about. So the crypto stuff is, I mean, to a certain extent it interests me, but then to a certain level it's just like it's a means to an end as well, you know? Like what's good is all the money, what are you going to do with it, you know?
I think you're right. I believe that spirituality is the most important. Then comes money, actually, and then comes governance, and then comes, personal business and stuff like that. All of that is important, and all of it needs to be healed. So I do feel that DeFi has a really, really big part to play in healing the monetary system, which is a very important part of healing the earth.
And that's my perspective. When you said healing the monetary system, that's the shift
that's what it's about.
Taking towards now. It's not like I used to have an upheaval. It's gonna shit on the old world, and everybody's gonna too bad, and everything's gonna burn, and then DeFi is gonna be the king. No, it's gonna heal it. It's gonna heal the problem.
I hope so. Yeah, and multiple ideas each have their own role to play. I believe XUSD has its own role to play with its tokenomics. I believe BetterBank has its own role to play with its tokenomics. I believe Bitcoin has its own role to play with the way that is now being mass adopted, even though that has some darkness to that. But there's a lot of things that each have their own role to play, and they may be permanent or they may be temporary. We will see.
Yeah, and I think the beauty will come, or it won't be the final. I shouldn't say final solution, gee whiz, but it won't be like the ultimate conclusion. Or it'll be getting towards the ultimate conclusion. But basically, when artificial intelligence starts plugging all these different pieces together, like XUSD, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, BetterBank, whatever, PDI, everything. It plugs it all together, and then the artificial intelligence is looking at all the different parts in the same way that a large language model is looking at all the knowledge of the world and outputting certain things based on that knowledge. Then once artificial intelligence takes all that data to do with DeFi, and then it will be able to be the prescriber of, this thing needs that, or that thing needs this, and it can be the thing that starts to heal things. And I'm
possibly
optimistic on artificial intelligence. I also think humans will be part of that. It's not like humans are out of the equation, because there's certain things that artificial intelligence won't have outside of humans. But just imagine now, like how you've used your brain and your capacity to create BetterBank. It's limited by your capacity. Now, if you had unlimited capacity, then you'd be able to. Who knows what you'd be able to create? And
I'd probably create it a lot more elegantly, because I'm always striving for elegance, and elegance needs knowledge. It needs, because in knowledge lies subtlety, and the more subtle you can make it, the more elegant it becomes. So yeah, obviously, if I would have a larger knowledge base within my mind, then I would create a more elegant system. That is absolutely true. I believe you're right. This at the same time, though, AI has, as far as I've seen so far, AI hasn't been able to create anything new. It is simply regurgitating everything that has come into it and then present it in a new format. But it's not the same thing.
Doing as well?
In a way, maybe. That's an interesting thought to explore. That's also, by the way, something that you could explore on the cellular level with the RNA of our food influencing our DNA. But that's a whole different discussion, which is still interesting though. um, but yeah, I do believe you're right. With more knowledge becomes more capacity for subtlety, and therefore becomes a more elegant solution. However, you still need the vision that usually humans are good at creating and projecting. What's
Of
up,
course,
Hexagons?
I think
So,
Tin Top always says what's up, Mexican. What's going on, Tin Top? Yeah, I think it's I'm thinking in the future where of AI where it's more what we would consider to be sentient, and it would be more an extension of us rather than a large language model at the moment is more kind of like a tool that I use, like a hammer or a calculator to do this work for me. Whereas
yeah.
AI, some kind of artificial intelligence sentient, would be more as an extension of us, and it will be helping us manage and control and create things in a way
If it,
that's like enhancing our capacities as human
if it
beings.
takes that humble position, then I think it would be great. But it's an interesting, like, we need to have discernment between AI becoming a servant in its capacity to humanity or becoming its controller, and I believe
Oh,
that is absolutely something that we need to take care of. I recently, by the way, was reading, I've not finished it yet, but I was reading a white paper by a group creating a new blockchain which they call the humanoid chain or something, like, where every node is verified by someone having unique biometrical things. Let me, yeah, let's see if you can find it.
human,
Humanoid dogs.
humanoid,
Yeah, yeah,
humanoid
they're
dog.
interesting people. So they basically say, like, every person on their blockchain has one node, and nobody can have more node than one person, and therefore, like, the voting is always equally distributed between humans, and they have ways to make sure that these humans are not AI. um, I mean, it's I I've not read
Interesting
all of it
concept,
yet. I
huh?
don't want to shill it either, but it's an interesting
Sure.
read, and they've got a whole manifesto and everything. Like, they're really coming at it from a philosophy perspective, which I can always agree with, whether I do or
So
do not.
would you say that you engage with these kinds of things quite a lot? So as someone who's designing your own protocols, are you keeping up to date? Like, do you have a natural curiosity and interest in these kind of things where you're like,
Yes.
oh, that's a cool idea, I'll read the white paper.
Yeah, I do, because I care about new ways that a blockchain can be run, and because we obviously, as being a DeFi project, we build on blockchains. So I would like, if a blockchain is completely innovative, then I want to know about it. So I do care about that. But this specific project was actually, and I'm in a group that is called the Arbitrum Developer Telegram, or whatever it's called, and there we are allowed to say something about our own protocols and to basically connect with other people who also develop on Arbitrum. It's an invite only group, and that's where this project was actually coming at me from that chat,
Right.
and that's how I got interested, and I was actually talking with one of the people on that team. I don't think he's on the core team, but you know, so you come in contact as soon as you start being in teams of DeFi protocols. You come in contact with other people who are creating things. For example, we've also had a really cool talk on in Amsterdam on one of these events with the people who are creating Nexa. And Nexa is basically, these are the people who created Bitcoin Cash and who are now creating a new protocol that is, in their words, Bitcoin as it should be. And then, which is also programmable and actually, like, way more like DeFi. So I think it's cool to stay in contact with projects like these. I think it's very important to realize that we are not alone in DeFi, and that we need to work with whatever is that. That looks very much like like almost like the Imperial signal, of Star Wars. It's a little bit different. I can see. But sure, you do you. But
should have been more like the Rebel logo, the Rebel Alliance. Come on, guys.
yeah. or it's on a boat, like one of these things on
possibly. Maybe that's what it's supposed to be. Something about navigating.
I hope so. I don't know.
Oh,
but no, it's cool. And like another thing that I'm really interested in connecting with is these protocols that make it so that there's a payment pass that you can use for assets that you just put on on a certain wallet address that is custodial. You can't make it otherwise anyway, but you send, for example, you send a couple of euro stablecoins to a certain wallet address, and then because it's there, you can spend it in stores. I mean, that is wonderful because it takes out the bank and it takes out the centralized exchange. It's just direct DeFi to stores. And I want to work together with groups like that. That's wonderful. And then we can be the savings account, they can be the current account, right? That's great.
That's really cool.
So you need to stay in touch with whatever other people are building, but you can't stay in touch with everything that is working on DeFi because it's still a very innovative space. A lot of it is crap, but there's a lot of brilliance as well. And we'll see what comes out of it.
Yeah, and this to me, this seems like a cool idea, but it's like just my gut feel off the bat is like, okay, they're trying to bring this concept of humanity onto the blockchain, and it's a cool concept, but what does it actually mean? Does it mean anything interesting? I'm not too sure.
I haven't read their entire white paper yet. I still have a lot of questions on it, and I will not give a real judging kind of response until I really understand what it's about. And I may not ever really understand what it's about if I don't read all of it. But I'm just inspired by the fact that someone created something like this. And,
it's a very unique concept, isn't it? It's very
it's cool. It's lovely. But there's more. There's also, like, this is proof of human existence. That is what they were going for as their blockchain nodes, instead of proof of work or proof of stake. But there's also proof of importance, proof of history, proof of blockchains get built on such interesting things nowadays. And I believe that like the truth lies somewhere there. I mean, proof of stake is really good. A PulseChain is proof of stake, and as far as I know, and that's pretty okay. But it still has the problem that those people who have a lot of assets will get more assets, and those people who have few assets will probably not be able to stake at all because they need to use their assets for their life. So it's still creating this division between wealthy and poor, which, some division between wealthy and poor is not a problem, but a lot of it is. And you need to have your middle class big, right? The middle class is where the healthy structure lies, where people have, they need to spend some of their energy on staying alive, but they also have energy left to actually do cool stuff with and to make their environment better and to rejoice together. So I would really like to support any kind of project that increases the middle class. Let's get out of poverty, let's get out of extreme wealth, let's go for middle class.
Yeah, no, definitely. So yeah, lots of cool things happening. Yeah. And I still feel like we're still in the exploration phase. We're still kind of searching for what the perfect form of DeFi is, where we're just exploring our way through the darkness almost in a way.
Yeah, we're still in the tunnel. We're not out yet.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting tunnel with all kinds of nice little niches and someone having a cozy little fire where we can sit and see what their idea is and what their mindset is. And I believe that we will create a very beautiful new future eventually, all of us together. I hope to be a part of that, because the world obviously needs healing because we're currently in the process of destroying it, and we should stop that. So it's a stupid thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So Nikki,
Yes.
I'm loving this chat, but I think it's probably time to start rounding up because obviously
Yeah.
it's probably
Right.
around the time where I wanted to finish up originally. But it's been good that we could start earlier because we got to have a really nice conversation actually. So I'm really glad. So a 1 hour conversation has now been 2.5 hours. So because we
Really? Oh, wow. Well,
yeah.
someone's going to use this as a sleeping, to sleep with, because
Yeah.
to put it on
Plenty
your
to
ears.
think about. So, but it's been really nice. No, it's been really nice actually. I mean, obviously, yeah, I think it's been really delightful to kind of go down some things that I don't normally, things that I like talking about on this channel, but I don't really get the opportunity to. So, and having someone who is quite knowledgeable in those kinds of things as well is quite nice. You know, we went down the avenue of psychedelics and the Bible and different kinds of religions and telepathy. I mean, these are some cool things. Things that I'm really interested in. So
Yeah, me too. And I really got to agree with Blue Brader here. We are in the tunnel, but with the clearest vision ever. DeFi. I believe he's right.
yeah, I also believe that too. I just think it's like yeah, there's heaps of analogies I'm sure, but it's like Raoul Powers just the way that he talks about things, and I heard them talking about was it Raoul Powell or it was somebody else discussing airplanes, and when they were thinking about the guys who were creating airplanes, they never imagined that airplanes would. They just thought, oh, we're great, we're going to be able to go up into the sky. They never conceived of this idea that it would change the whole concept of travel around the world, the whole concept of transportation, the fact that I can just go from here to here within a few hours. Like it changed so much of the way
Yeah.
that the world run and was structured and communicated and connected. And they never could have possibly imagined those things. They just thought of going in the sky and that's it. So I feel like this is how I feel with DeFi. It's
Yeah.
like
Right.
where we think we know what it's going to lead to, but we maybe we can't quite see that vision, what it's going to be, that final form of what this is yet. What could that be? Is it abundance?
Yeah.
Is it just a leading stepping stone into abundance? Who knows?
Well, we'll figure it out, I'm sure, eventually. It's been really lovely. It's been really lovely having this discussion, and I do agree with Adrian. Wrap it up. Need to go eat. I'm also a little bit hungry. Let's go with that. Thank
Nice.
you,
All
by
right.
the
Well,
way,
thank you so
all
much,
of you
Nikki.
for and thank you all of you for being in the comments and being a part of this
Yeah,
conversation,
absolutely.
because we may not have responded to everything, but I've read most of it, and I thought it was valuable, and I really love the way that you hosted this, Stephen, and yeah,
Oh,
let's
thank
have
you.
a talk some other time at some point.
Yeah, definitely. And just to Adrian as well, my apologies for my shortness earlier about those comments. I felt that you were baiting me, and it's because I'm quite. I've been getting a lot of those kind of comments in the PDI chat, and I'm sick of them. And it's just like everybody knows I'm in the XUSD team, and I'm getting paid, and I make it clear all the time. I'm not going to say it every minute of every hour, but it's there. It's in the description. I don't want to say it all the time. And I felt like you were baiting me. Maybe you weren't, so my apologies if you weren't. But if you were, you cheeky dog. But anyways, thank you so much, everyone, for interacting. Thanks again, Nikki. Let's do this again. Take care, man. You have a good day.
You too.